I'm ready. Welcome back, everyone. And maybe you could mute yourself unless you're speaking. Welcome back, everyone, to our ongoing quest to build a culture of empathy. We are recording this call for educational and promotional purposes. And now we're going to do a round of short check-ins. This will be a 30 seconds each. I know it's not very much time, but we don't have a lot of time. So in the 30 seconds, you can have any questions or comments from the last session, or you can talk about your buddy call that you had during the week, or you can do a little short report on what facilitation you might have done with an empathy circle this week. So I'll just call on people and give us your 30 seconds. We'll go through the participants first, and then if we have time, we'll go through some of the trainees. So let me start with Jonathan Gordon.
Thank you. So I've been Googling empathy circle and looking at the first 20 or 30 listings and just kind of exploring cyberspace as to how the terminology is used. I had a good buddy call and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Beata.
Hi, everyone. Yes, so Mike, I had a buddy call with you today. Thank you very much for being kind. And I know I didn't have time during the week, but you kindly accepted and find time today just before our circle. So thank you for that. And it felt like we had really nice conversation.
Okay, thank you. We did. Colin.
Hi, everyone. So I had an empathy buddy call with John earlier in the week, and we talked about the challenges in the facilitation last week. John was a good listener, and we had a good exchange. And I think I also submitted some thoughts on the challenges from last week in the feedback form, and I'm looking forward to taking on new challenges today and seeing how that goes. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Diane Kay.
Hi, everybody. I had the privilege of speaking with Janine and Celine this week. I really hit the jackpot. So that's the part I'm enjoying really the most, is getting to know everybody in the cohort, and looking forward to today. Thanks.
Okay, DJ.
Hello, I'm DJ Chandler from Florida. I keep myself muted so there won't be any feedback with my Wi-Fi. I don't have any earbuds or anything right now. So I hope if my Wi-Fi is a problem, you'll let me know. I had 2 buddy calls this week. One was Shayantan, I think I'm saying that correctly, in India. It was very, very interesting call that lasted quite a long time. And then I had another buddy call with Valerie yesterday. That was very good as well. So thank you.
Thank you. And Graham.
Thank you, Mike. I wasn't here last week because I was in transit from Scotland. I've had 2 buddy calls from this group here this last week. One was an appointed one with Crystal, and just tremendous. And another one with Dwayne, and yeah, just immense. A real sort of turning week, if you know what I mean, this week. Anyway, I look forward to the session today, and thank you for asking me.
Okay, thank you. John?
Hi, everybody. 2 calls, one with Colin, as he mentioned. We did talk in depth about a concern that he had, and I know that he sent it up to the leaders, to Edwin, to review, and it was related to somebody thinking about self-harm. So I won't get into detail, but I think it was very, very important. And Colin, it affected him. He took it serious, and he saw an area that I think needs to be considered further. The second one was with Janine. We just had it this morning, and we had a great chat, got to know each other better, and talked about empathy and compassion, and very much enjoyed our discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathleen?
Hi, everyone. I've had a pretty good week. I'm really looking forward to today. I've been talking once a week with a friend, Marisa, who did the cohort training last time. And now that we both have a little bit more language together and shared understanding, we're just talking a lot about how we can see practical ways this will work in community organizing and movement spaces we're in together, and just see how empathy circles can be a way for this work to be more sustainable. And I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Crystal?
Good morning, everyone. I had an inspiring call with Graham, as he mentioned earlier, and I missed my call with Dwayne, and just thankful to be here.
Thank you. Leo?
It's raining in Wisconsin, so you might hear raindrops in my background. I had a delightful talk with Tanya in Lebanon. What a privilege to cross the continents and speak to people in other countries. I also met with a local church leader, and we hope to plan an inter-church training program about empathy circles down the road.
Okay, great. Matthew, we're going to give it a try, see if we can connect with you. Matthew Osu. Are you unmuted and ready to go? Matthew? We can come back. Are you there? I hear something.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, you want to give it 30 seconds?
Okay, good evening, everyone. I had my body call with Larry. It was a great session, the first since the training started, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Okay, that was even less than 30 seconds, but we had at least a good connection. Thank you, Matthew. Mervyn, we haven't done you yet, have we?
Hi. Yeah, I had a chat with Shayantan and Dwayne. Dwayne and I had an interesting chat about bringing presence, mindful presence into the session, and how important that was. So that was quite stimulating. Cool. Thank you.
Okay, Renato.
Hello, everyone. I attended the Empathy Cafe on Monday, and yeah, it was a good empathy circle. I also learned some new English words, which I'm glad that I learned some words, and I'm looking forward to learn more. And also I had a body call with Linda, and we had a great conversation and meeting each other and get to know each other, and I'm really grateful for that.
Okay, yeah, I think one of the words was fallacy, if I remember right.
Yeah, fallacy.
Okay, Sally.
I don't know how I look. Sorry. Celine and I had a buddy call, and My sister and I, not exactly, but we're working on it. We're so excited to talk to each other. We kind of get the momentum of just talking. And then Larry and I had a buddy call this week.
Okay. Tanya.
Yes, thank you, Mike. I had a buddy call with Leo. That was really interesting. 1 hour of empathy. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Well, you guys are making these calls briefer and briefer. Let's see. Wendy.
Thank you. And I had the privilege of 2 buddy calls this week, one with Dwayne and one with Sayantan, and I had the opportunity to take part in the European Wednesday meeting, which is always really very profound, excellent empathy circle. So thank you.
Okay, so it looks like we've gotten through, if there's a participant, we'll go on to the trainees next, but if there's a participant that I missed, can you let me know?
Yeah, hey, Mike. It's Janine. I just wanted to chat and tell everyone that I had a wonderful call today as well with my new buddy, Diane. We were talking just about nonviolent communication. She is fantastic. So I just am really happy that I'm meeting so many new buddies and connections with this empathy training. And then I got a chance to catch up with my buddy from last week, John. And we were speaking about NAMI and the work that he's kind of just doing with mental health. So I had a really, really great week. So looking forward to this one.
Okay, let's see, Valerie.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to actually say that my buddy calls this week were wonderful and wonderful learning experiences. But I wanted to give a shout out to a comment that I think Janine made last session about how she was doing empathy with her husband. Correct me if I'm wrong, Janine, and then you guys realized you were doing method, then you went off method and you realized you became judgmental. So you decided to go back on method. And I just really want to say, I appreciate so much that you said that, because I kind of feel that that is something we don't talk about, how like method is so useful versus like colloquial conversation, and how we can sort of transition back and forth without offending people, you know. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for mentioning that.
Okay, Tiffany.
Hi, I did not get to meet with my buddy. He was unavailable on this week, but we did communicate. I'm just glad to be here today. I am in the hospital, not for me, but for someone else. So I'll just be in and out, but in support of today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sayantan.
I had some really nice buddy calls. I spoke with Wendy, and I spoke with Mervin, and I spoke with DJ last week, and yeah, it was really interesting.
John, did we get John or John trainee?
Yes, I already spoke.
Oh, okay.
Just a quick note that there's 3 roles. There's participant, and I think, John, you're a participant, so you're not a trainee. The trainees have done the training before and have been in the pre-sessions and the post-sessions. So you wouldn't want to add it. If you have the name trainee and after your name, it'll be confusing in the breakout room.
And in this part right here, very confusing. No, I'm just joking. Okay, Jonna.
Yes.
Did I pronounce that right?
Jana, you're calling me?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. I participated in a buddy call this week with Jonathan, and we empathically listened to each other and learned about each other's interests, and thank you for that. And I'm happy to be here today.
Okay. Let's see, who else? Mike Zonta. Yes, I had a good buddy call with Piazza this morning, and a good empathy circle on Monday. We have a wonderful intro empathy circle on Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And it kind of resonates for me for the whole week on that particular circle. Now let's see, I'm sure I'm missing a lot of other trainees. So this, are there any trainees that I've missed?
Oh,
I always forget you. Sorry.
It's okay. I'm sure it's nothing personal.
I think of you as a trainer. That's why. That's why.
Thank
Okay,
you.
go ahead.
Thank you for your kindness. I excuse me. First of all, for the second time in my life, I'm experiencing allergies. I've never had allergies in my life until like 2 years ago, and this is the second time. So it's been an interesting experience. I wanted to say thank you to Wendy, to Mervyn, to Graham. I had 3 buddy calls on Thursday, and it was just a really enjoyable, energizing experience. Each call was unique and rewarding, and 3 really insightful people who were, just an excellent part of our empathy facilitation team. And so I had just a really amazing experience. And Mervyn, I want to encourage you to join Bill's group on Thursday sometime, because he would definitely be open to some of the ideas that you shared with me. And thank you. I'm excited. I'm going to be on the road for the next 2 weeks. So I'm driving to New York, and then my family's going to be at a retreat in the Faith Lodge in Wisconsin in September. So it's going to be an interesting, challenging next couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Bass.
Linda's a trainer, so we probably should get to the feedback, Mike.
Okay.
So just
All right, let me know if I thought we were doing pretty good on time. Let's see, did I miss any trainees or participants? No? Okay, then I'll turn it over to Bill, who will talk about feedback.
Great. Welcome. There's quite a bit of feedback. I know that Anne Jordan is not here, but she did meet with me. She has a very important engagement, her favorite niece's wedding. So the best to you, Anne, and your niece. And hopefully some of her wisdom will kind of leak through as I speak. Okay. A lot to get through, and then we might have a few extra minutes for some clarification questions, but we'll see. So first one is the buddy call procedure. Someone asked whether you have to listen for the full 15 minutes and then reflect, or whether you can ask for pauses. And in the buddy call, it's the same as the breakout circles or the empathy circle. If you need a pause, then ask for one. So you don't have to wait for the 15 minutes. Another one was very interesting. It's could be a whole session itself. How do you integrate this in your daily life? And one of the things is just practice. We liken this to exercise, a physical exercise. So you're strengthening your empathy muscle. I've certainly noticed that in myself, and I have a long way to go as well. And then Anna also says, be bold as far as reflecting others. If there's something happening in the conversation, oh, did you mean, and, try that in daily life and see how that goes. All right. So the facilitator role model, the one was question if somebody's sharing quote unquote shallowly or not as much in depth, and really the speaker shares at whatever level that they are at. One of the main features of this training, but also the empathy circle, is that we meet the speaker where they're at. So if they you share shallowly, then that's fine. But if you want to kind of take it to another level, when it's your turn to speak as the facilitator, you can share on a deeper level, and sometimes that serves as a role model or an entree for others to do the same. For the facilitator, this is about the topic. And I forgot exactly, all the particulars, but, can you alter things? And if you're doing your own circle, you want to keep, true to the basic parameters and the structure of the empathy circle, but you can modify it as need be. So some people will, for instance, use it as an icebreaker at the beginning of a meeting, and then as a checkout at the end. I know we've done that when we go take the empathy tent around. Let's see. What happens if the speaker speaks in very explicit, racist, sexist, or whatever? It's important to say, I hear you saying, so people understand you don't necessarily share those views. And then you can paraphrase it. You don't have to use the same, racial epithets that somebody uses. And then also, many times if somebody's sharing on that level or venting that much, it may not be appropriate for the empathy circle. You have to read the room, but you can offer like a buddy call later, and then try to debrief them in that. Offer them another avenue in which they can share their feelings. If person is objecting to the process, that's one of the challenges you might run into today. You acknowledge the difference between this and a regular conversation. In other words, you validate their feelings. It's not the same. You ask them to stick with it, and if they still object, sometimes people just won't. I don't like this. I don't like this. And then one thing I say is that, okay, this is not right for you at this particular time. Doesn't mean you're not empathic or anything like that. It's not a judgment. But, if you don't want to do the process, nobody's going to force you. Just kind of, non-judgmentally allow them to encourage them, but don't judge. Okay, if someone is in serious crisis, we talked about suicidal ideation and things like that. It's important to kind of know, have 3 references if you can, for mental health, support and other things like that. A lot of times, depending upon where they are, you want to direct them to a kind of local services, and you can actually do that on the internet while you're talking to them. But it's good to have a few things in your back pocket for emergency services. And, and it's important to also know your limitations. And if somebody's bringing to you something that you just don't know and can't handle, then just be honest about it, and then direct them towards more directed services. All right, technical issues we deal with all the time. What we try to do is to accommodate as much as possible, but sometimes it's just really impossible. So you have to make a decision there. Again, you can offer another call at another time, or try to establish things like that. And when to intervene. This is what I call the art of facilitation. When somebody is kind of going off the process, I say, okay, they're going off the process. And then I kind of make a little calculation as to whether just letting it go, it'll kind of resolve itself or things like that, or whether it's going so far, off the, the structure that I really have to get people back in. There's a cost-benefit analysis to that. When you intervene, you interrupt the process. So generally, I err on the side of letting things kind of go and working themselves out if I can. Small little things I might let go and maybe talk about it later, but that's called the art of facilitation. And you're balancing 2 things there, basically getting everybody heard and allowing the speaker to be heard as fully as possible. And then also the structure. Okay. And then there was another, and this had come up earlier too, that somebody, I guess, looked on the Edwin's Google Calendar or something, and Google directs you to kind of their, I forgot whether it's Meetup or whatever, instead their app instead of Zoom. And so all of these meetings right now are held on Zoom. There might be, you might connect on some other app, that's fine. But that's in the calendar, so just, double check that. And I'm sure Edwin's all over that, like white on rice. That was it. And we have a few minutes left or something like that. Are there any questions, or is there something that you'd like me to clarify? Linda, yes, you want to add? Trainers also add. Thank you.
Yeah, going back to the question of when you're in a group and people are using offensive words and offensive terms, I would suggest that at the beginning of the session that you set boundaries and say that we will, we're going to go through the process, but we're not going to use words that are offensive, or because you can figure out another way to say what you want to say without using. So when you set the boundaries, if somebody forgets and goes outside, you can, rather than chastising them, you can say, remember, we all agreed that we would not, or we would, and that kind of brings the person back.
Great, thank you, Linda.
Yeah, I'd like to add to Linda's, I think that's totally inappropriate for somebody to say a racist comment. And that triggers a psychological threat response in people, even though we're halfway around the world. I think that can just poison the rest of the time together. Of people wondering if they're going to say something about me next or my group.
These are good topics to bring up in the empathy circle. So if you get into the empathy circle, just to keep on time, and you're going to be going. So we're going to go into the empathy circle, and you can have any topic that you want as a participant, and maybe bring up some of these topics and use them in the circle. So we just got 4 minutes, Bill. So
right, gotcha. No, I got through all of these, and so now we're into basically, if anybody needs any clarification or other trainers would like to add anything, or if there are any other questions.
Breakout room description.
All right, so Edwin's ready. I can tell. He's very subtle.
I try to keep everybody on track. I'm the one that keeps the trains running on time.
Yeah, Edwin and Mussolini. All right. All right, and so I'll pass on to the breakout room, and that is Celine description.
So today is today the sessions are you will have a chance to facilitate for maybe up to 30 minutes, depends on how many people are in your circle. You will choose the topic, and you also will choose whether you want a challenge or not, low, medium, or high. And the challenges, if you have been checking Edwin's website, we have 3 types of challenges, which I thought I remembered exactly what they are, but I don't. But they're in, or is it somewhere in the chat? 3 challenges link. I see it.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. So these are what you can expect. Generally, it's like an interruption. Somebody doesn't like the process. They came with some expectation and that is not being met. And how many challenges per participant? I don't think we have one set, but it's, you want to remember that also everybody's involved in a process together, right? And sometimes maybe the conversation is kind of deep or interesting or whatever, and here somebody comes and interrupts the process. So you want to keep that in mind. Some people end up kind of feeling hurt by it. we're practicing, we're learning in case it comes up for you. And I have had in empathy circles complaints because somebody came in wanting one thing and they were getting something else. So I was glad to have had the practice. So there is participant objecting to the process. Active listener is not reflecting empathically, or somebody interrupting the process in some other way. So that's what you can expect. We will have the same hour and a half for the breakout room. And yes, somebody also puts none, low, or medium as what you want for your challenge today. Is there anything I missed? Is that
okay? Yeah, just before we go into the rooms, we're about to go in. We're just right on time. Is that as the when you're facilitating, when you're facilitating, you can just say what level of challenge you want, and then you don't have to do the how-to. What's really trying to practice is the challenges. So you can go right into setting the topic, and the topic is whatever topic you want. Like the previous sessions, we had the set topic. This time, when you're facilitating, you can say whatever topic you want. You set the time, 3 minutes. We're going to have 3 minutes, and then you, as a facilitator, you'll be the first listener, and then you'll deal with challenges. So that's sort of, yeah, Celine.
I want to say one more thing is that the challenges will come from either the trainer or the trainee in the room. And if there's a trainer and a trainee, between the two of you, decide who will give the challenges. So it's not just random. They're going to come at you from you don't know where. Only one person will give the challenges. And they're more, I like the word distraction. Yeah, challenge is a little scary, but that turns out it's, I think, a distraction. It's like,
Okay, so we're going to go into the rooms, and we are down a couple trainers. So in the first room, I'll be there with Tiffany. So since Tiffany, they're visiting in the hospital, I might be facilitating that room. Then there'll be Celine and Jana. Jana is the trainee, and Celine will be the trainer. And then there's Linda and Mike in the next room. And then there's a room with Bill. You'll be there by yourself. And we're sort of at a number where there's one kind of extra person. So I'm going to put Osu in with you. He's sort of coming and going. So there might be like 4 participants in your room, but it's just because of the numbers, you have to kind of deal with that. And then the next room is with Larry as trainer and Valerie as the trainee. And the last room is Dwayne. You're there by yourself again. Sort of, yeah, Larry?
I'd just like to mention that after the breakout room, don't log off. Come back to the main room for the debrief, please.
Yeah, I'll send a 10-minute heads up before we come back, and you just come back into the full room and we'll have a debrief. So here we go. We're all set. Enjoy. And you should be beamed up to your room. Okay. So Matthew and Sayantan should be moved to a different room. There's sometimes the software is a little bit slow to move them. So yeah, this is, I think, Tiffany, do you want me to facilitate this? Because I think you said you'd be in and out. Just wondering how you're doing there.
I'm doing okay. I'll just be there for support.
Okay.
If you don't
Great.
mind.
So I made this a special room here because all of 4 of you were interested in the defining empathy project as well. So I thought it would be a good way for us all to kind of connect with each other. So we're sort of doing double duty in this room. And let me just double check. This is also the weight room. So if people drop out, they're going to be coming through this room. So that'll be a little bit of a distraction. So what we're going to do is whoever wants to start, you can let me know kind of what level of challenge you want. If you want a challenge, 0, medium, low, medium, and it'll be coming from me and what else? Yeah, it's set the time limit. You're the first facilitator. You don't have to do the how-to, and just set whatever topic you want. So, and I'll keep the, you'll have about 30 minutes for that. And then we'll have 5 minutes. That will be a debrief. Yeah, Tiffany?
I'd like to start just
no.
in case something happens.
You'll just be observing, because we have 3 participants and you were a trainee. So you would have been facilitating this room, the overall room otherwise. So you'll just kind of be observing.
So I don't speak or listen?
You can be a listener, yeah. Unless you're going to facilitate the time of the whole room, because I'm sort of stepping in just for you as a trainer.
Okay.
But you'll be a participant. If someone wants to speak to you and you feel like you can be there, they can speak to you too.
Okay.
So who'd like to start?
I'm happy to start unless Crystal or DJ would like to.
Oh, you're good to start. What level of challenge would you like?
Medium.
Medium, okay. Going right to the medium, okay.
Thank you. Thank you. So I don't need to give the how-to, but just a reminder of meaningful speech, and we've all agreed to this process, so it would be wonderful if we could all keep to this process. And I suggest that our topic might be what is a meaningful life for you, or whatever's on. Would it be okay? Oh, I was just about to ask Tiffany.
I just muted
Tiffany.
Tiffany.
Yeah, but yes. So, what is a meaningful life for you, or what is alive for you? So I've just put that in chat, and I wonder if anybody would like to volunteer to be the first speaker. My understanding is that it's my role to be the first active listener. So yes, would anybody like to volunteer to be the first?
And 3-minute time limit, just as a heads up.
Yes. Okay, as nobody's volunteering to be the first speaker, may I ask DJ if you would be okay to be the first speaker?
Yes, I'd be glad to.
Thank you. And I'll be your active listener. So I'll just start the time. And yeah, there we go. Time set.
Okay, so what's alive for me today? Or I guess I should say, I'll take any kind of disruption or interruption. Mediums.
It's only Wendy who takes it at this point, because she's facilitating, so she's the one that will get it. You'll get it when you're facilitating.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry about that. Okay, so what's alive for me right now is this whole idea of what is empathy. And I've been thinking about it quite a bit, especially over the last maybe 36, 48 hours. And I did some voice recordings last night of my thoughts about what is empathy.
Thank you. So what I hear you saying is that what is alive for you at the moment is the question of what is empathy. You've been thinking about it a lot over the last 48 or so hours, and you did some voice recordings on this very question.
Yes, thank you. And I think right now I want to mention 2 things about my thoughts about defining empathy. One is that, generally speaking, in my process of research and analysis, I find that words or language are typically inadequate or are changing away from sort of ideas related to violence.
You've been reflecting that in your research and in your experience, that words and language are very inadequate. Their meaning keeps changing, or that their meaning can change.
Yes, and particularly how we are having a sort of global paradigm shift away from violence, metaphors of violence, images of violence, to something more peaceful and empathetic.
Thank you. So you are particularly interested in how that your experience of a global paradigm shift away from violence and towards a more peaceful approach.
I've been noticing that as well. I think that's a really good point, DJ. I'd love to talk to you more about that too. I've seen that happening too.
Thank you so much, Edwin. Just a quick reminder of the process. This is actually now DJ's opportunity to speak. And when it's your opportunity to speak, we'd love to hear what you have to say. But at the moment, your role in this process is as a silent listener.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I wasn't aware of that. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. And please, it's fine. No sorries. No need. No sorries in this room. But thank you, DJ. I realized that the time is actually already up. Just so if it's okay with you, we'll carry on with the process. So yeah, I think I become the speaker now, and so if it's okay, I would request Crystal if you could be my active listener. And before we move on, I'm sorry, DJ, I forgot to ask you, did you feel heard?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, thanks. So Crystal, I'll just start the time. Yes, so one of the question that I put was, what is a meaningful life for you? And the reason for that is its connection with empathy. You know, a meaningful life for me is one that is embedded in empathy and in compassion and the connection between those.
Yeah, so the question that you posed for us is, what is a meaningful life? And you're reflecting on how there's a connection between meaningful life for you and empathy and compassion and the connection between the two.
Thank you, Crystal. Yes. And I feel it, for me, the definition of empathy needs to be rooted in life, in what is a meaningful life for me, for anyone. So as DJ said, sometimes words, yeah, they can distort or change the whole discussion.
And how empathy for you is a meaningful life, having empathy, and how at the same time words can be a distraction and are inadequate rather to sometimes describe that process.
Yes, I feel it's important that when we're discussing whatever definition and helping other people understand the definition, that it is rooted in what is meaningful for each of us.
And you feel that it's important that when we have this discussion about the meaning of empathy, that it's rooted in what is meaningful for each of us.
And one of the challenges I feel is keeping things simple. The definition needs to be so simple and so universal, so it can be translated easily into any language. So it needs to be succinct, and yet it needs to cover all the bases without needing lots of questions to explain it.
And the challenge is that it needs to be universal without lots of questions to explain it, that it's simple for everyone to understand.
Yes, and my time is up. So thank you, Crystal. I feel fully heard. Thank you.
May I select Edwin to be my listener or Tiffany?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay. Edwin, would you be my listener?
Sure, glad to.
Let me just take a moment, please. Yep. The Dalai Lama says that empathy is the most precious human quality.
Yeah, that's a great quote. I really like that quote. He has a lot of really good things to say.
I'm just going to interrupt a minute, Edwin. Thank you for resonating with what Crystal said. And just as a quick reminder, the role of the active listener is not to agree or disagree or express preferences with the speaker. It is literally to reflect back, if that's okay.
Okay. So I just say back what Crystal said is kind of.
Yes, you can either repeat or you can slightly summarize, but you're not putting your interpretation or agreeing or disagreeing. No judgment.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, I forgot what you're saying, Crystal. Sorry. Something about the Dalai Lama, I think. Yeah. So can you say that again?
Sure. He says that empathy is the most precious human quality. And I'll expand and say that I believe we're in the midst of a evolution of human consciousness.
So the Dalai Lama is saying that empathy is like the most important value, and you're seeing this evolution of human consciousness happening now.
And building on what DJ said, that it's so difficult to sometimes put words on actions, and also building on what Wendy was sharing, that empathy and compassion require action. I'm pondering that connection.
So it's like Wendy's saying, it's hard to put words to actions, and you're just pondering kind of what that means to take action.
Yeah. And building on that, I was reminded of Jeff Weiner at LinkedIn, who was the founder, the CEO, and how he shared from the Dalai Lama that empathy can be illustrated in that when we see a boulder on someone's chest, empathy is seeing it, but compassion is the action of helping to remove it.
So the founder of LinkedIn said that that he was sort of describing what empathy and compassion is, and empathy is seeing a boulder on someone's chest, and compassion is taking action to remove it or do something about it.
And how interconnected, as Wendy was sharing, compassion and empathy are in terms of serving our highest purpose and our mission in life.
Yeah, and you're just seeing the importance of empathy and compassion to really dealing with these important issues in our life. It's not like they're just central to our life. I saw that was the time Wendy put that up.
Thank you.
Okay.
I feel fully heard.
Great. Speak to DJ.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I know the compassion community often says, that compassion is about action and empathy is not, and I disagree with that. I think that empathy is very action oriented.
You're reviewing that it's very common in the compassion community to say that compassion is the vehicle or the motivator for action, and you disagree with that.
Yeah, and I reference human-centered design. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with human-centered design, but it's the design process used in the design community for designing products, services, trying to design anything. And empathy is a central core to that process.
You subscribe to the beliefs of the human-centered design movement that has at its core empathy. And this design system is part of many different things in today's world.
Yeah, it's used to design products and services, and it has empathy as a core process component of the process.
It's used to design many different products and services, and it uses empathy at the core of its products and services.
Yeah, so in the tech field, here in Silicon Valley, human-centered design is kind of like the core kind of process for innovation design. It says that anything that you design, any product, services, you need to empathize with the people you're designing for as kind of like a first step. And so it's very central. And the whole thing is geared towards development, product development, services development. So it's highly active. Yeah, highly active. Yeah.
So this approach is highly active, especially in Silicon Valley. You will hear about the different products and services that they're innovating and creating using human design perspective or movement or theories or approach. It's very common, and empathy is at the core that you need to think about who the products and designs are for and have empathy for those users.
Yeah, so for me, empathy is sensing the full spectrum of people's experience, whereas compassion is focused on the slice of people suffering and what do you do with suffering. So I see the compassion as just a subset of the full spectrum of empathy.
So you see empathy as the full spectrum of the user experience or the lived experience or the human experience. And compassion is just a slice of that. Compassion is often in your belief about suffering and about solving that suffering, where empathy is much more encompassing and ubiquitous.
Yeah, I feel fully heard. That's my time too. And yeah, I guess we have time for 3 more minutes, and then we'll do the debrief. Yeah, feedback.
All right, well, Tiffany, would you like to be my active listener? Could you hear me?
You're muted, Tiffany.
Yes.
There you go.
You agreed to be my active listener. Is it okay for you to do that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, very good. Just let me know if you can't hear me, okay, Tiffany?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, I would like to reflect a bit upon something that Crystal said, and then combine that with what Edwin has just spoken about.
you'd like to reflect on what Crystal said and then combine that with Edwin's perspective?
Yes. Crystal mentioned something, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember exactly the words. But I had initially mentioned about the global paradigm shift, and I believe Crystal called that the collective, the collective evolution consciousness, or the collective consciousness evolution.
So you were thinking on the global paradigm shift, and then Crystal talked about the global, I'm sorry, consensus. What did you say?
I think it was the global consciousness, or the collective consciousness evolution.
Okay, the global connective consciousness evolution of empathy.
Perhaps, yes. In this context, yes, I think empathy would be fine to say that, since that's what we're really talking about.
Yeah. So it's okay to relate it to empathy.
Right, because that's our topic, and it's my turn to speak, so I'm just going to do the best I can to move forward. So Edwin was expressing this full spectrum of lived experience, and being integrated into empathy in its totality.
So you're talking about how Edwin was talking about how it's integrated into empathy.
Right, that the lived experience, that the human-centered design, that full spectrum of human experience has at its core empathy.
Okay. The totality of the human experience has at its core empathy.
Yes, it has at its core empathy. So if we combine these ideas that Crystal is saying and combine them with what Adam was saying, we might be able to get to what I wanted to say, but I'm out of time. So
You're out of time, but you were prepared to share your perspective after combining and reflecting on Crystal and Edwin's perspective. If it's wrong, go ahead
yes,
and correct me.
Okay,
No.
so we did, yeah, the time is up for this section, so we want to get the feedback for Wendy. How is that facilitating, Wendy? And then we'll go hear from others.
Well, it's a privilege to be with such experienced people. So it was, yes, the challenges felt kind of normal. They felt realistic, the kind of things that a newbie to a empathy circle would say. So hopefully I was able to kind of bring it back on track. I'm feeling a lot of empathy for Tiffany at the moment, because it must be hard to engage with this. So that, yeah, I hope it's not too distracting for you, Tiffany, to be in the hospital doing all this. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, Tiffany, do you want to give your feedback for Wendy? How was the experience for you?
I think she did a great job. Oh.
Okay, is there more?
That's
Or
all. Yeah.
is it okay, DJ? Your experience?
Yes, I thought you did a great job too, Wendy. And I didn't mean to leave you out in my sort of culmination. I actually was going to add you, but things just went really slow. But I really enjoyed the way that you did it. You have a really wonderful sort of empathetic way of speaking.
Okay, Crystal?
Yeah, Wendy, I think you did a beautiful job with Edwin with his interruption. And I thought that was 5 stars. I'm curious, have you explored using a time app just to in terms for everyone to be cognizant of their time as a vehicle to make that process easier for you?
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll give, see, yeah, I gave 2 challenges, and actually you caught me on a third one, which was just me going on for a long time. So that was really great. You had that little sign there, remember to pause. That always really works really well. I felt, I didn't, as a person sort of disrupting the process, I felt you really, were just sensitive to who I was. And so I thought that went well. There was something else. I can't remember what it was. Yeah, but I can't remember it, but I'll write it down next time. So, okay, any final comments with Wendy before we move on to the next person? You're good? Okay. So Crystal, DJ, would one of you like to go next?
I just want to ask Crystal a quick question. I know that you put the app link in the chat once before. And is it just called Timer?
You're muted, Crystal. You're still muted.
My apology. Yeah, so let me share it. Oh, he's just one moment, sorry. Yeah, it's in my apps.
There's some kind of an app that Tiffany had mentioned once. You'd mentioned there's one in Zoom now, some kind of a timer, I think, too. There's these apps in Zoom.
That's the one that I had shared as well, Edwin. And
that's the one I have.
Oh, great. I'm just inviting you to use it. Here, I'm inviting all participants. There we go.
Okay, who'd like to go? Crystal, you up to it?
I'd like to sit back for a moment, please.
Okay, so my turn.
Would
Edwin.
you like challenges, 0 to medium?
Yes.
Okay. Medium? Is that a medium?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm going to try to get this timer to work, but I had promised Crystal that I would have it prepared already for this week, and I'm sorry that I didn't, Crystal. Shame on me. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'll do the best I can. So I believe that it's 3 minutes that we're doing, and it's a total of 15.
You have about 20 minutes.
About 20, okay. And I can choose a topic or just leave it alone. I'll probably just continue with, the same kind of topic or whatever's alive for you, or defining empathy. And I can display this on my screen for you. And I need to choose a speaker, or I need to ask for a speaker. So Wendy, are you interested?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you. You're going to be the active listener, I assume.
Yes, and I'm going to start the timer right now, and let me know if you can see it.
Yes, I can see it. Thank you. So, right, where were we? Global collective consciousness evolution, global paradigm shift. I'd love to think that was the case. I'd love to think that the whole empathy movement, the whole compassion movement, the whole social justice movement was very much part of that. I'm not, yes, I suppose from Yeah, sorry, I'll pause. You're muted.
You would like to think that there is a global empathy movement or a global social justice movement, but I kind of heard a little bit of a hesitation there.
So for me, I think it needs to start with the individual, you know, start local and reflect globally. So on a person by person basis, on a, you know, does it really help to know that there's this you know, global paradigm shift? Of course.
For you, you see it as something that would occur or would be most important at the individual level and at the local level. And you're questioning whether or not the global empathy movement or the global shift would really impact this.
Yes, thank you. So on a local level, does it really matter whether empathy or compassion is part of the spectrum? You know, what does it really, is it just tautological? Are we just trying to, you know, define things that are similar and over thousands of years have been defined?
So you're questioning at the local level for the individual, would it really matter if there is a global shift going on? And you're thinking possibly this might fall into maybe possibly something that's not so positive, sort of this idea maybe of totalitarianism or just the totality of history of the thousands of years that these kinds of things have been going on for humankind. Like how does that impact into the individual and local level?
Yes, I use the word tautological in the sense of just trying to define something. Thank you, DJ. I feel fully heard.
Yes, sorry. Okay, thank you very much, Wendy. So now I'm the speaker, and I pick the listener. So I would like to choose Crystal.
Could we just talk normal? Because this is kind of a slow process. It seems like really slow. It seems like we just kind of talked kind of normal. We'd kind of be able to get more kind of said and done.
Okay.
Be quiet, Edwin.
Yeah, did you say something? Somebody called my name?
I did.
Well, right now, I can talk a little bit faster. That's fine, Edwin. There is a process here that is very important to follow. And that is that we do listen very carefully. And sometimes that is a little bit slower than maybe another kind of conversation might be. So if you could just be the silent listener, if you don't mind. And if Tiffany has something that she needs to say, I didn't really get that. But if you need any kind of help or anything, please let me know. But right now I'm going to be setting the timer for 3 minutes. And I'm going to be speaking, and I'll try to speed it up a little bit there for you, Edwin. Okay. And Crystal will be the active listener, and your job is to be the silent listener, and you might get to be a speaker in a few minutes.
Okay.
Okay, are there any questions? Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, wonderful. So this global paradigm shift, I'm going to just go with that, or the collective consciousness. I'm just going to go with that for now, and I'm not really going to get sort of stuck in that whole idea of what a global shift is or what a collective consciousness is.
So circling back to the beginning, you are not going to get stuck in what the global collective consciousness is, or in definitions. It's
Right, because I really want to focus on this whole idea of the defining empathy. What is empathy and how that relates to the individual and how that relates to the collective.
And what you really want to do is just focus on empathy and what that is, and how that relates to the collective.
Yes. And so one of the things that I'm thinking of, I'm just going to throw it out there, and I don't really expect it to be very clear because it's a little bit complex.
And one of the things that you're going to throw out there is something that is not that clear. It is complex.
Right. And so if we just go ahead and we assume that we can have symbolic representation and cognitive representation in the terms of a bell curve.
And if we could just assume that we can have symbolic representation and something else in a bell curve.
Symbolic representation, or just, cognitive, meaning that sort of, it could be metaphorical, but in this case, it's more symbolic.
So cognitive, it could be metaphorical, but in this case, it's more symbolic.
Right. So if we think of the bell curve as existing, and I assume everybody knows what a bell curve is, that you have the center that has the highest frequency and the most individuals involved.
So in reference to the bell curve, it has, the highest frequency. And could you repeat that? I apologize.
Right. The highest frequency and the most individuals involved.
And the most individuals involved, right?
Right, and maybe I'm wrong to assume that we're all familiar with the bell curve, and that's okay, because
I've never seen that bell curve. It seems kind of confusing to me. It's kind of hard to kind of picture it. I don't know if you could kind of explain it a little bit better or something.
Well, considering I have about 15 seconds left, Edwin, and it's not your turn to ask, you will have a time to speak, and during that time, you can bring up all of these kinds of things, but I agree with you. But please, if you could just hold on, you'll have an opportunity to raise any issues that you might have.
Oh, okay.
I feel fully heard, and I apologize for the complexity.
So DJ, would you like to start the timer? Well, let me first select someone to be my listener. Would someone like to volunteer?
I'm happy to volunteer.
Wendy, thank you. The conversation has definitely speeded up as the request of several of our participants, and I like the slower dialogue.
So you're saying that the conversation has definitely speeded up, and for you, you like a slower dialogue.
Yeah, and I'm reminded of, in fact, someone who once said that when we're reading a book, it's the only time that we actually slip into someone else's skin, and how there are people who read quickly and there are people who read slowly.
You are reminded of a saying about when we read, it's the only time that we slip into someone else's skin, and we can either read slowly or quickly.
And I think out of respect for all listeners who could be auditory, visual, kinesthetic, in terms of their learning styles, it's important to go slow.
So for you, bearing in mind all of the different learning styles, all the auditory, kinesthetic, etc., it is important to go slow.
And I think it's like reading a book. When we are repeating back to someone what they say, we are in essence reading what they said, but with our minds, visually, in auditory. We are in essence, the neuroplasticity, it's all happening simultaneously to impact our neuroplasticity and our ability to have empathy.
So for you, when we're reflecting back, it is like reading, because you're reading what the person said orally, but reflecting it back verbally. And neuroplasticity I think I missed the point about neuroplasticity. I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, I was just reminded of a study at Berkeley where they did this and they reflected back. They had a day session, and the people's brains who processed it had more activations, and their brain was actually evolving in response to the experience.
So you're reminded of a study at Berkeley on neuroplasticity and how people's brains evolved as a result of the experience.
And for me, that requires processing it slowly. And I just think that's the definition of empathy, is being fully present for others, to have that capacity to grow. And I think that's a slow process.
So for you, the definition of empathy is, my mind went blank. I'm sorry, Crystal. I'm really sorry. For you,
I'm sorry.
For you, the definition of empathy is it involves being fully present, and that requires a slow process.
Yeah, I think my time's up. I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. I'm sorry I missed that.
No, I wasn't articulating it well. So thank you. You did beautiful.
Thank you, Crystal. So yeah, Tiffany, I don't know if you want to listen. Are you able, or would you rather not?
I will definitely try my best. Don't use any really big words.
Thank you, Tiffany. Okay. So yes, just focusing on definition of empathy. And I do feel that, following on from what Crystal said, the being fully present also involves, if it's going to move from being fully present to empathy, then for me there needs to be a response. There's some kind of responsiveness to the feelings of others.
Mhm. So what I hear you saying is that with empathy, in order for the definition to really resonate with you, the other person has to be fully present, and there also has to be some responsiveness to let you know that he or she is. Did I get that right?
You certainly did, Tiffany. Thank you. So if we're using the empathy circle process as part of helping us define empathy, then in the active listener, for me, I feel that they are actively listening. If there is some kind of facial or some response, if it's just blank, it's hard for me to think that it's more than just listening, that it is empathy.
Mm-hmm. So this time you're giving like examples of the type of empathic responses that you're willing to accept, even if they're nonverbal, give you something so that you can know that you're being empathic, that the other person's being empathic.
Specifically with reference to the empathy circle process, yes. So the active listener, if it's just blank and just the words, and that ties in with Crystal's thing, Crystal's mention of different styles of learning.
And okay, so I didn't get it quite right the first time. What you're saying is during the empathy circle process, the person who's the listener can't just repeat words, like there has to be something else there with the face, something to let you know. Is that correct?
Thank you, Crystal. Sorry, thank you, Tiffany. Yes, for me, otherwise, if it's just blank and just words, I don't know, the expression comes from the heart, maybe the words sometimes just from the head. You've gone mute, Tiffany, sorry.
So go ahead and reflect back, Tiffany, and then we'll move on.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the very last thing that she said. Even if we take a few more seconds, will you please? I'm sorry, DJ. Will you please, Crystal? Or not Crystal?
Wendy.
Wendy. Okay.
Yeah, to summarize, for me, empathy does involve some kind of response. That's
okay. So for you, empathy involves response, some kind of response, something to the words that are being said. Is that correct?
Thank you, Tiffany. I feel fully heard.
All right, thank you. And thank you, DJ. I had a call come in when she was talking, so I couldn't hear. DJ, do I talk next or does someone else?
You can go ahead if you want to. I mean, it's totally up to you. And just choose your listener.
Okay. Edwin, would you listen?
Sure.
Okay. So for me, empathy is the ability to recognize and validate the feelings of another person.
Yeah, I have that same definition of empathy. So I think we really have the same definition.
Yeah, could you reflect back what I said?
Reflect back? Oh, yeah, you're saying that, I forgot what you said. You say it again.
Empathy is the ability to recognize and validate the feelings of another person.
Oh, okay. So for you, the definition of empathy is to recognize people's emotions and what they're saying and to validate it.
Yeah. And based on what was just shared, I'm now considering that people's facial expressions and level of eye contact and body should also be included in empathy.
So by what Wendy said to you, you're seeing you're maybe adding to that, saying that what people's bodily expressions and eye contact and so forth are also sort of part of empathy.
Yeah. So now I'm considering adding that to the definition and how I can exemplify that better.
So you're considering that how you can exemplify that and add it to the definition.
Yeah. And I'd like to stop early.
Okay, you feel fully heard.
I do.
Okay. Well, I think maybe we'll pause here and get the feedback. DJ, how is that facilitating?
Yeah, I always like to have a little bit of fun with things, for some levity. And I thought it was great how Crystal kind of like zeroed in on the whole pace of things. I love that. I just love what Crystal was saying, and it adds a whole new dimension to everything. It just kind of took the whole conversation or dialogue, I guess we call this, to a completely different topic, where it was more focused on the actual empathy circles, which I think is very interesting, because the first part has been about what is empathy, kind of a little bit separate from the circles. So I thought that was really good. I probably could have done better. I always believe I could do better. So I'm open to constructive criticism at all times. I don't even like the word criticism, but I definitely want honest feedback.
Okay,
Maybe that's a better way.
would like to go first? Tiffany, you up for some your experience?
I thought she did an excellent job. This DJ, I thought she did an excellent job. I have no criticism. I heard every time she got with you, and it was such a pleasant and non-condescending tone. So I appreciate it.
Okay, great.
Not that other people were, but I'm just saying.
Okay, thanks, Wendy.
Yes, DJ, you were really clear, in my experience, very clear, and you referenced back to the process each time there was a challenge, and that is key. And your manner was very non-confrontational, so it worked really well. Thank you.
Crystal?
Yeah, DJ, I thought you did a beautiful job of handling the disruptions and continuing the conversation and honoring everyone in the process.
Yeah, so my feedback is, when I made the one thing about, hey, this is kind of a slow process, it seemed like you were sort of acquiescing to me, saying, oh, I'll speed things up. So, I might not have said that, just said, hey, it'll come to you. You don't have to kind of acquiesce to, but if you want to acquiesce, that's fine too. But then it was kind of interesting how Crystal kind of brought it back to, let's just have it be kind of slower. So that's kind of the dynamic, of the circle. Everybody can sort of share their, voice their concerns. And I felt as a disruptor, I felt that you're kind of got me back into line. It felt good. And there was one point where you asked, is there other questions? I'm a little hesitant to open it for questions, because then people will step into it and it turns into a dialogue. So I usually don't say, is there any questions? I say, let's just keep going with the process. So I'm really hesitant about opening that, because it can be, some people, it's like a can of worms. They'll just grab and take control with that with questions. And the other is, this is the first time I'd seen that timer. So I'm not quite sure what I think about it. It's like, it makes it clear on one hand, it's a little bit distracting. And I do think I could get used to it. So I'm not really sure. I'm kind of curious what everybody else thought about seeing your time there. It's clear, how much time you have left. So there's something nice about that. It is a little bit, my eyes go to it, but I noticed that over time I was kind of getting used to it. So I'm just wondering, I don't know, Wendy, since you're unmuted, what was your sense of the timer there?
Thank you for asking. Yes, it's the first time I've seen it in use, and like you, it distracted from the empathy for me initially, because I'm looking at, so if DJ was my listener, which she was initially, so I'm looking at her and actually I'm looking at the clock, and it makes me feel like, oh, she's only got a short time. And I know that is the case, but I'm not sure I need to be reminded minute by minute of the 3 minutes. So I need to use it many more times to give a more balanced view. But my initial one would be, I find it a bit jarring.
Since you're unmuted, Tiffany, do you have any thoughts about that? I don't know if you were able to see it on your cell phone.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah, Crystal?
I think that it's something that you have to get used to. I do see your opinion, Edwin and Wendy, in the challenge that it proposes for you. And I think that it's just one of those firm boundaries that once you get used to it, it's kind of like measuring, facial expressions in terms of connecting with empathy. And I think it also helps people move along in their thought process. So I think the pros and cons, from my perspective, the pros outweigh the cons.
Great. DJ, as having set that up, how was it?
Yeah, I love it. Crystal turned me on to it and I like it. And yeah, I mean, time's an issue for me. I mean, I can be so slow that I annoy myself, or I can be so quick that I confuse myself. So, I think the pacing of the empathy circles is a challenge for me, because it's new. When I talk, I'm not used to timing myself talking. God knows that's true. So I do want to mention something real quick, Edwin and everyone, that I experienced in another meeting that was not really an empathy circle, but it had people in it who were trained in empathy circles. And it was really bizarre and very disturbing how two people got on the call and they didn't have their video, so we couldn't really see them. And what they did is they hacked into the chat and started saying nasty things in the chat and started saying verbal nasty things too. And it was really horrible. And the leader who trained, an empathy circle person didn't do anything. And I said, you can just kick them out. You can just go in there into participants and just kick them out. And I left the meeting. And so I just wanted to share that with you, Edwin, how it was so disturbing, that the facilitator didn't do anything. That's
okay, well, it might be something to talk about in the next circle. Crystal, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so I'm happy to have a hard challenge, and again, thankful to be here and grateful to be a part of this session with each of you. So I am the active listener. No, I should not use that word active, right?
Yeah, you're an active listener.
Yeah.
First listener.
Yeah, so who would like to be the speaker?
Was there a topic?
Oh, that's right, the topic. Well, building on what DJ was sharing, I was thinking about oral language and how the pragmatic skills outside of that, building also on what Tiffany was sharing, are important. And so the topic is on that and the exploration of logos, ethos, and pathos. I'm sorry, that was a lot. Let me refrain. Thank you. So the topic is empathy as it relates to the oral language and pragmatic skills. Does that make sense to everyone, or should I clarify further?
It makes sense to me.
Who would like to be the first speaker?
I'll go.
Thank you,
Okay.
Edwin.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand the question, but I always just, if I don't understand something, I just kind of ignore it, and I just kind of talk about whatever is kind of on my mind.
So Edwin, you're saying that you didn't quite understand the question, and when you have that experience, you tend to ignore it and just talk about what's on your mind.
Yeah, and so I guess I'll talk about the defining empathy, that everyone here is interested in the defining empathy project. So it's great to kind of use this time sort of double duty. We're learning the facilitation as well as we're, kind of connecting with the others who are interested in this project.
So you're sharing the beauty of double duty and how we're going to focus on defining empathy.
Yeah, and I forgot what level of challenge you want too.
Hi.
Oh, high, right, okay. Yeah, then we don't have high, we have medium, so it's the highest. We don't want to overwhelm people.
Okay.
So just to let
So-
you know, you want to just reflect that?
Yeah, so you shared that you shared that you don't have high and that we're just going to go with medium. You asked me a
Yeah.
question and I answered it.
Yeah. And let's see. Oh, yeah. And everybody here, so we're going to be meeting next Friday. So at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So if you can make it, that would be great. We'll be doing an empathy circle just on, on this topic of defining empathy. So I hope everybody can make that.
So Edwin, I'm going to pause for a moment because I don't feel that I was fully heard initially. I'm going to take ownership in that I didn't do a great job of explaining the topic. And if I could have a moment to reframe. I also didn't turn on the timer. So can I do a do-over?
Okay, let's start. You got the high challenge. Okay.
Well, so I just started the timer. So why am I so nervous? So please let me pause for a moment. I don't know what's coming up in me at the moment. Thank you. Would you like me to start over or would you like to proceed?
Up to you.
So, wow. So Edwin, what I was proposing as the topic for today was defining empathy in terms of oral language and the pragmatic skills.
Okay, so the pragmatic skills of defining empathy is the topic.
And how, as DJ and Tiffany were alluding, language sometimes can get people stuck.
So others have talked about language being something where people get stuck.
And I believe that when we are in empathy, in that full presence, sometimes we don't have to speak.
And yeah, if you're in empathy, you don't even need to speak. It's not, you don't have to have verbal language.
Sometimes you can just be fully present and be there for someone in spirit without words.
So if you're being empathic, you're just present and you're just there with them without words.
And the beauty of that is that then when people speak, you can then reflect back in this empathy circle movement, not just the oral words, but also pragmatic skills that help us connect on a deeper level.
So when you're listening to someone, you're sort of sensing beyond the words. You're which you're seeing as sort of a pragmatic level of kind of beyond the words or deeper than just the words.
And I think it goes back to the Greek and Roman times of logos, ethos, and pathos, and how you, in order to really have an empathy anchor, you also have to have the logic and authenticity to connect with someone.
So going back to like Greek times, that there's something about logos and that you have to be able to kind of connect more deeply with people. Is that? There's a deeper connection.
So it's the logos, ethos, and pathos, and that when you're in harmony with all three, then you have trust as an anchor to build empathy.
Oh, so you got to have these logos, pathos, and something else that when they're in line, then empathy kind of comes out of that.
Thank you. I think it's the natural byproduct. I feel fully heard.
Okay. Well, I'll speak to DJ. Oh, yeah, you see, so you see that those things are a byproduct of empathy. I just reflect that last part. So I'll speak to DJ. Yeah, we kind of switched roles there with Crystal. I kind of was trying to calm her down a little bit just by listening to her, and I turned into the listener, which is fine, but I just wanted to kind of name that. You're muted.
Yeah, you kind of switched roles with Crystal. You were trying to calm her down a little bit, and you became the listener.
Mm-hmm. And so you can just see the power of empathy. You know, when you hear people, if they're feeling upset or something, you start listening to them, and then they start feeling more grounded. So I think that's one of the real powers of empathy, is how it kind of, when people start feeling heard, they start relaxing a bit.
And that's the power of empathy. You just demonstrated it with Crystal, that through being that fully present, deep listener, you were kind of like enacting what she was talking about. And it did have this very calming effect on her. And you were able to be an active listener. And Crystal was able to make her points.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, what she was saying about, I think that we live in a world of empathy, kind of a nonverbal empathy. We're just like constantly, our world, you know, sort of like the glue that's just keeping us all together. We don't even need to use the term empathy. It's just kind of there all the time. But we can deepen that level, because there's things like judgments and so forth that are inhibiting that way of being. And there's all kinds of things that are blocks to empathy. But we're just like swimming in it all the time, seems to me.
So we're just like swimming in empathy all the time. It's just everywhere, and we don't even need words. It's just something that's part of our lived experience. It's the glue that kind of holds us together. And well, I'll just stop there because I kind of lost my train of thought.
But there's these blocks that come in to empathy, and that's actually part of the training. You know, the number 6 is going to be, we're going to look at the blocks to empathy. So if we can remove the blocks, if we can develop the empathy skills plus remove the blocks, you know, we can raise sort of the quality and level or depth of empathy.
Yeah, so it's really part of the training, these roadblocks or these blocks. It could be judgment, it could be criticism, it could be going off track, it could be not active listening, not reflective. You know, there are all these kinds of things that get into the way or get in the way of empathy. And we're going to be learning more about that in level 6 of the training. And it's an important part of connecting with the empathy that we live with.
Yeah, it's level 6 of the defining empathy training. Yeah, of that. So I just want to be clear. It's not this training, but that training. Yeah. And with that, I feel fully heard.
It's level 6 of the empathy training, not this training. Wendy?
Yes.
Would you be my active listener?
It would be a pleasure. Yes. Thank you, DJ.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Wow, I just feel a rush right now. I just feel like there is so much energy in our dialogue and our conversation. And I want to bring you into that, Wendy and Tiffany, if you're not already there.
So at the moment, DJ, you're saying how you feel this rush of energy. You feel this conversation is very deep, and you'd like to bring myself and Tiffany into it if we're not already there.
Right, if you're not already there. And so I'm not really able to ask you if you're already there. So I'm just going to assume that you are, at least in part, because you've been, you know, you're trained listeners. And that's the beauty of the empathy circle, is that everybody has a role constantly. And it's not just the active listener.
So you don't know whether Tiffany and I are there already, and you're assuming that we are because that's our role as silent listeners, to be very present.
Yes, that's what I was saying. So I would like to carry on a little bit. Not really sure that I understood Crystal's idea of pragmatic notions. So I'm gonna leave that to the side. Maybe on Friday, or maybe another time we can go more into that pragmatic aspect. And I kind of like to bring it back out into this issue that you were talking about earlier, Wendy.
So at the moment, we're not 100% sure that you really I understand or empathize with Crystal's point about pragmatic dialogue, and so you want to bring it back to some of the points we were talking about earlier.
Right, particularly that point that you were talking about in the beginning, Wendy, about individuals and about, I think that you were referring to this idea of universalism. And I really want to address that in the future. And that's something that I'm very interested in, is that sort of balance between the individual and the collective, or the individual and this whole idea of global meaning. And I don't believe that individuals really do connect, like you were saying. I don't really think there is that connection necessarily.
So you want to bring your reflection back to the point in the discussion about the individual and the collective, and how they actually do connect. And actually for you, you're not really sure that there is that connection between the individual and the universal.
Right, exactly. And my time is up. Thank you very much, Wendy.
Thank you, DJ. Crystal, are you happy to listen?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. One of the things I'm wondering about is empathy, whether it's a feeling, whether it's a skill, whether it's both.
So you're wondering if empathy is a feeling, a skill, or both?
Yeah, and referencing back to the neuroplasticity research that you mentioned, Crystal, and I'm just wondering if that's the Tanya Singer research, but anyway. Yeah.
And so you're wondering about the research that I referenced about neuroplasticity?
Yeah, and whether it was the research by Tanya Singer, who my understanding really is that research really helped us understand how the mechanism of the mechanism of empathy and the mechanism of compassion are different, and that, you know, the importance of the difference is how the research seems to be showing that compassion allows, it motivates action, as we've been saying. I'd better pause.
And you're reflecting back how compassion in that research, the differences in the research in compassion and empathy, and how compassion requires an action.
Yeah, and that research seemed to be saying that the neural pathways, the neural circuits dictating empathy and compassion are actually different, and the neural circuits dictating empathy actually can increase painful emotions, whereas those associated with compassion increase positive feelings. And yeah.
Yeah, and you're summarizing how the neural pathways are different in compassion and empathy.
Yeah, and yeah, so there's the challenge can be the burnout. You know, if there's a lot of empathy, then there's burnout. And the research seemed to be saying if there's compassion, there isn't that burnout. So when we're looking at blocks to empathy, the challenge is that they're likely to be more, more emotional burnout, disassociation.
Yeah, and you're now raising the issue of disassociation with empathy, and that it's a challenge in empathy, that when you have compassion, you don't have that challenge.
Yeah, and my time is virtually up, so it's stop. Thank you. Thank you. I feel fully heard, Crystal. Thank you.
Thank you.
We could do maybe a debrief.
Yeah.
Ready for the debrief, and then we'll have maybe like 5 minutes to chat at the end. So how was it for you, Crystal?
I mean, I got off to an incredibly rocky start, and next time will be more prepared in terms of my topic. And it was really the evolution of everyone sharing that was, I had so many different thoughts going on. I didn't do a good job of articulating the question, and then I switched roles because I didn't feel heard by my question. And the beauty of this circle, and that it just awakens so much joy in me. So let me have it. Thank you.
Okay, Wendy, do you want to let her have it?
Oh, Crystal, your energy is just so beautiful and calming, and what you did was so gentle, and it was empathic. You know, it was clear that, you know, there was, well, for me, it felt like there was some level of anxiety, and yet your gentleness allowed you to take the process, and the whole process seemed to just evolve very naturally. I hadn't even noticed you'd switch roles until Edwin said, and then I remembered, you know, oh my gosh, yes, it was actually beautiful. I personally really valued very much that whole experience. So thank you, Crystal.
DJ,
thank you.
Thanks. DJ, you want to go?
Yeah, I want to echo what Wendy said. What I love so many things about the way that you did this facilitation. But I think what I love the most is you're fully present. Like you were talking about being fully present, I believe, right before that, about how important it is. And you know, to be 100% fully present is very difficult for the human being. You know, I mean, it really is. You know, we're always, you know, being distracted in our neuroplasticity of neural synapses that are like in the billions, you know. So I commend you. I respect you. And I think that this is an amazing experience, an opportunity for me as someone who has been an empath ever since I was 3 years old. I knew I was an empath, and to be in a room full, well, a Zoom room of other empaths discussing empathy is probably the nirvana of my life. So thank you so much, all of you. It's a pleasure to know you. Crystal, you and I know each other from past circles, and of course Edwin and I know each other, and Tiffany and I know each other. But Wendy, this is my first time with you, and thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, Tiffany, do you have any feedback for Crystal? I don't know if you were able to see it.
I really was not able to see it, but I have worked with Crystal before. So yeah, she's got it. Thank you.
Okay, so for me, the question, I think that what started is the question was too complicated. You want like a simple question that's just, there's no kind of question about what does this, you had words like logos and, you know, and these things, unless you're in that know, you just, they're kind of like academic terms. So having a good question. Has everybody seen the intro video, the overview video to this? I hope so, because there, you know, you could have even have had, I mean, everybody have the question already ready and then just post it. It's nice if you have a question, you can post it in the chat, and that's a reference. So I always try to post it. That's just like, we didn't talk about that, but that's something. And to remember to always say whatever's alive for you. So even if it's a complicated question or something, then it's whatever's alive for you. So people feel free to just say, because on all the circles, it's always and what's alive for you. So I want to bring that in. And you got a little flustered there, but this is a safe space to experience that, to get support. And you just the more we do it, the more we the better we get at it. Yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts. So any final thoughts, Crystal?
Well, I just want to thank you, Edwin. I mean, your beautiful leading of this process and your grace for me is just, thank you. And DJ and Wendy, each of you as well, and Tiffany, and that you showed up and that you're at a hospital. And again, I'm just thankful to be here and humbled.
Yeah, well, we have 5 minutes. So do you have any sort of facilitation questions, anything that we can answer, or anything? So just for this last 5 minutes, I can answer any questions, or you can share any insights or anything.
What's been your worst experience?
The worst experience, well, we had someone in the circle once who was just very disruptive. They would just take every opportunity and especially if you asked a question, like I mentioned that before, like in the intro, and he was lashing out. I remember Bill was facilitating. He was saying, "Fuck you, Bill, you're this," and it was just really upsetting for him. And that was like, he's very, and so you have people like that, but that's only for new situations, where people are new to the process. But he was also would disrupt groups all over. And but if we got past that, when we got into the empathy circle, he always went by the rules of the empathy circle itself. It's like he was actually there with the timer, checking times and everything, and he would do really well. But if you would have asked the question, say, "Oh, do you have any questions?" He would have gone in with that question and just taken over the group, with that time. And so I always try to, keep the discussion within the circle process. Yeah, DJ?
So I do want to share an experience that I had with an empathy circle that did not go well. And there are 2 things that happened, and I'm going to try to be brief. So I knew everybody, almost everybody in the circle very well. And one participant was on a roll when he was speaking, and his active listener was on a roll too. They were like, doing this thing. And when the time was up, they weren't like really satisfied. Neither one of them were satisfied. But because of the way the circle was going, and I can't remember the details exactly, but the active listener who wanted the speaker to go on was like forced into, and not, I wasn't the facilitator, there was another facilitator, was forced to, speak to somebody else. And the whole time she was speaking, she said, "Well, I really wanted to hear him, and I really am really upset that I couldn't hear him." And I was sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Why can't the facilitator just let those 2 reverse roles and kind of continue this wave, Like, how did that go wrong?" And so I don't know, can the facilitator kind of make things a little bit maybe adjusted so people are happy?
There is the structure. We want to, as a facilitator, you're holding the structure. You're not trying to make people happy per se. I'd say it's like, hold the structure. Let's keep the structure. And the structure is there for a reason, because it creates equality of time, right? But the listener could have selected spoken back to the speaker. So they could have said, "Hey, I'm really excited about this. I'm going to select you." And they could have kind of kept it going. But you do want to, especially if you're dealing with conflict, like this is good practice for dealing with conflict situations. in a conflict situations, people are very attuned to fairness of time. It's like, how come that person gets more time than me? We got a conflict here. My time is as valuable as your time, and things just blow up. So that's the reason for keeping a strict sort of time. And with the time, I've done like family empathy circles, and we talk for like 4 hours. We go for like 2 or 3 hours, and something happens where the energy shifts, where we've integrated the sharing and the timekeeping, where we drop the time limits at that point, because it's sort of embodied. Everybody sort of has that sensitivity to each other. And then if something starts falling apart, we say, oh, let's go back to the times, let's go back to the active listening. We even drop the active listening and time, because people are just in this deep sense of connection. But that's usually like, 3 hours or so in a 4-hour family empathy circle, right? I've seen that happen. So just learning how to keep the time, I think, is important. And, sometimes it's a little harsh, but they say, oh, I really want to speak. You say, you'll have a chance. It'll come back around to you. And we want to hear from others too. So for fairness, you can say this is for fairness of time. So I don't know if that sort of addresses, talking about fairness, I got to close all the rooms. Yep, got all into this, close all rooms. So thanks everyone. It was great. And I'm looking forward to, working with you all in the Defining Empathy project. I just love all the insights you're sharing. They're all good things to kind of, bounce around and kind of explore.
Yeah, your multitasking is phenomenal, Edwin.
It is a lot to balance. I'm like tracking over here, keeping all the rooms going too. So thanks for that, mentioning that. Good to be appreciated.
Hi there, everyone's coming back now to the main room. I think
We're all here now.
All here now. Okay, great. Well, welcome back, everyone. So now each of us can take about a minute to share your experience or any insights that you had. What were your learnings and insights from the experience, or anything that's alive for you? And I'm just going to call on people so that we can move it along more quickly. So I'll put that into the chat. Or anything that's alive for you. Okay. We're going to go with Mervyn and then Matthew.
Yeah, we had, Oshu had quite a few technical problems with coming in and out. So that was really interesting to see how to manage that situation with if someone has poor internet connections. And one tip that Bill did was to get everyone to put their videos off, which I never thought about before, to help with the bandwidth issue. That was quite useful for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mervyn. Matthew? Matthew's, can you hear us, Matthew? Okay, I'll go back to you. Tanya and then Wendy.
Thank you, Valerie. It was a really great session. We had a lot of challenges, and it was a really amazing learning experience. Every challenge was different, difficult. Yeah, so it was really a really good session. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya.
Yeah.
Wendy and then
oh, sorry. Yeah. It was, yeah, an excellent use of time. There was a lot of learning and a lot of empathy shown, and I feel privileged to have been part of that circle. Thank you so much.
Okay, Oran, and then Kathleen.
Thank you. Yeah, good, a really good learning experience for me. I need a better time card, and yeah, Bill was kind with his challenges, but I still learned a lot from them. Thank you.
Thank you, Oran, Kathleen, and then Renato.
Yeah, I really am just appreciating the process of the 5 weeks and how everything unfolds, because we had more challenges than last week as a whole group, but we also talked and shared some more vulnerable things, and it felt more like last week we were really focused on the process and we didn't really have as in-depth conversations, which was fine, but it was nice to have the balance of being able to try both this week in my group. I really appreciated it.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Kathleen, Renato, and then DJ.
Okay, so I'm glad that I did this empathy circle facilitation. I introduced new topic and heard a lot of new topics also, and it was really amazing, the reactions. And also I did well with the challenges, and I'm really proud of that. And also I listened to other challenges, other participants having the challenges, and it's really a learning experience.
That's wonderful. Thank you, DJ, and then Leo.
Thank you, Valerie. Yeah, I had a wonderful, incredible experience. In the energy level, it's almost like I get transported to this surreal kind of beingness where we're all connected and we're kind of floating into this beautiful way of being in the collective consciousness. And it feels like everything is possible, like anything, all the hope, all the peace, all the love, all the empathy is possible. And that's such a beautiful feeling that I just want to hold on to that feeling and keep it near at all times. On a more practical level, I made the faux pas of during one of my disruptions or distractions or interruptions of saying, well, do you have any other questions? Which of course is not a good thing to do, but
Right.
It was great. And thank you very much.
Thank you, DJ. Leo?
I was in a group with Beata and John with Dwayne. We all agreed Dwayne has an excellent challenger. He has a character. we are looking for a name to name his character. So he's very skilled at the distractions, and we appreciate that as an important part of this training. And we're glad to have Empathy Circle as in our toolbox for empathetic and compassionate listening.
Thank you, Leo. Colin, and then John.
Yeah, I learned how we intervene is important, as facilitators, if there's a distraction, tone of voice that we use, and having the right level of firmness, and also keeping it brief if possible. These are some key learning points that I took away. I'd like to thank you, Valerie, for the excellent challenges that you gave us.
Thank you so much, Colin. John, and then Sally.
Great group with Dwayne, Leo, and Beata. I think we talked about the challenges and really helped each other. And yeah, Dwayne's character, he stayed in that character throughout all the challenges as we went through the different cycles. And he mixed in a little narcissism and microbullying comments that were great to field. And but he said that felt strange to him because that's not him. He's a beautiful soul, and like Leo said, we're trying to figure out a name, a kind of a bully name for him, because he's great on challenges. Thanks, Dwayne.
Sally, thank you so much, John. Sally, and then Diane.
Hi, I was in a group with Linda, Mike, Renato, and Shayantan. I chose difficult, and it seemed like I was on hairpin curves on a road. And Linda was the challenger. And as I was grateful, I had the level of challenges, and Mike was very good doing his roles. Renato gave us a really interesting topic that was informative because of the group that we had, and Shayantan did a absolutely wonderful job presenting as the facilitator. He's got perfect English language skills. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sally. Diane and then Janine.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I felt very caringly held by my group, and really appreciated the depth of the exchanges. And a wonderful tip that for me, what Celine shared, was when there's a disruption, to remind the person about the role that they're assuming right now, rather than to address them as any personal issue. You know, in your role as the active listener or the silent listener, this is, you know, what's part of the role. So I found that to be really helpful. Thanks.
Thank you, Diane. Janine and then Matthew.
Yeah, I had a really great group of ladies, and I am just loving this process as a whole with everyone's vulnerability. We had some game changers on there. Honestly, everyone in this empathy training is a game changer, in my opinion, because we're trying to do something different and better for the world. So yeah, we had a great chat. I will certainly be connecting with these ladies more so in the future. And I'm just, again, I'm overjoyed to be a part of the process. So thank you.
Thank you, Janine. Matthew and then Crystal. Matthew.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Valerie, for this opportunity. I have learned so much in this period. What is exciting about this is that
You're cutting out just a little bit, Matthew. We're just having some trouble hearing you, Matthew. So I'm just going to come back to you, Matthew. We're just having some trouble with the connection. Okay, Crystal, and then we'll try Matthew again, and then Beata.
Well, imagine you are with the Olympic gold medalist in your group of
people I have met within these 5 weeks is something great.
Oh, we've lost Matthew there. Okay, Crystal, please continue.
Yeah, I was just saying, imagine you're a new facilitator learning this beautiful method, and you're with the Olympic gold medalist of empathy circles, you know, Edwin. You switch roles by accident as the facilitator. Well, that's what I did. And I am humbled by the grace that was given to me by DJ and Tiffany and Wendy. And it was just a beautiful experience of the improv that can also happen in building empathy circles.
Thank you so much, Crystal. Beata?
I had really wonderful circle. I was with participants who I felt like were very grounded and confident, which really inspired me and affect my energy. And I learned a lot through the challenge that the character that Wayne played was so convincing and difficult that I really learned a lot.
Thank you so much, Beata. Graham, and then Jonathan.
Thank you. Our session was led by Valerie,
And there's a German word, Lernreich, so it's rich with learning, enormously rich with learning. We'd learned all sorts of things about the effects of interruptions, and also what the effect of it was on some of the group members. And there was a lot of emotional currents there that were actually expressed and not expressed. And so the effect of these interruptions were really quite profound, a very interesting learning experience, very valuable learning experience. And I thank you, Valerie. And I thank you also because it is, and you mentioned this, you acknowledged it, it's agonizing actually doing these things and breaking the flow. But thank you for the experience you gave us. Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you so much, Graham. Jonathan?
Yes, today it came into focus for me the difference between being actively involved and kind of excited and absorbed with the exchanges versus keeping the timer, being the facilitator. And so these two roles became more distinct, and I realized that I have to be careful not to get caught up in just enjoying being with everyone when I have a responsibility also to moderate and to keep it a safe space and to keep on time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. All right, we're going to go back to Matthew. And Matthew, if you're having any difficulties connecting, then you can also put your comments in the chat.
Thank you, Valerie. Like I was saying earlier before the internet went bad, I have enjoyed this so far, especially meeting people, which is one of my greatest, one of the things that really excites me. I meet people, and it's very special to me because these people that I have met in recent time are not just people within my locality, but across the Atlantic. And so it's special. It's special to me. I've learned a lot. I've seen what you guys in other continents think, what you think about the society, even though your challenges over there are not same challenges we are facing, but I'm beginning to learn that regardless of the challenge, we can apply the same principles to resolve our challenges, especially when it has to do with humans. Humans are the same anywhere, anytime. And we can use one principle to solve human challenges. Thank you. And I love to be here, and I love everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Thank you. Are there any participants who I have missed? Okay, yeah, I think I've got all the participants, and now we're going to move on to the trainees. So Sayanten, I'm going to start with you, and then we'll move to Jana.
Yeah, I'm somewhere in between because I actually facilitated a circle in the breakout room, which was unexpected, but I'm really grateful for the opportunity. I was in a beautiful room with Linda, and there was Mike. I can't see beautiful Mike. Okay, he's there. And then I was there with, sorry, I'm really bad with names, but I was in a group with, I need a second here. Renato. I was with Renato. Yeah, I hope I got the pronunciation correct. And I was in a group with Sally. And it was really interesting. I mean, I use the words interesting and beautiful interchangeably sometimes, but it was really interesting. It reminded me of how a circle is sometimes more powerful than two people. And I'd been doing a lot of buddy calls just for the last few weeks. So the empathy circle really hit home for me. It was really beautiful. Also, one of my fellow participants brought in this difficult challenge dealing with self-harm. And it was really nice to see him go for it and explore the limits. I really loved the discussions we had around various very interesting topics of climate change and of beautiful things. And I also realized that beautiful can be subjective. I mean, I might find something beautiful to be quite terrible at a certain point in time, and that's just relative, and I completely empathize with that. So it was just really nice being in the same group. And thanks again to Linda and Mike. I was about to mention in the end when my screen went completely dark and Linda was thanking Mike for hosting it. I was just about to mention that I might be a little delayed because my screen had gone dark at that point of time. I could only hear them, but there was nothing on the screen. But it was so nice being here. And it just brought me back to memories of other empathy circles I've hosted where I did not have video on. And it's fantastic how empathy can often also not be visual. I mean, I've had quite really nice circles where I could not see myself also. And thank you. I know I took a lot of time, but I got disconnected towards the end, so I just wanted to acknowledge everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Santayan. Thank you very much. Jana and then Mike.
I really enjoyed our circle. We are a group of activists. Celine gave the challenges and she gave them very gently twice, and Janine was challenged from the home front, so she spared her. And I just make a general comment that everyone struggles with that timer at the beginning, and we get used to it. It doesn't ever necessarily become perfect, but it does become familiar and better. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Jana. Dwayne, would you like to go next? Because we really want to hear from you before you leave.
Oh, thank you, Valerie. I'd like to begin by saying thank you to Beata, Leo, and John for, as I stated, providing me with the important learning opportunity. I always learn from these experiences. I'm always a student first and a teacher second, so thank you. I'm also grateful for the opportunity to participate in this process and to meet you all, and I look forward to our next conversation and sharing, space again together in the future. Again, it's always a really enjoyable experience, and I'm enjoy being a part of this team and a part of the movement that we're all a part of. So thank you, take care, and hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dwayne. Have a safe trip and we'll see you when you get back.
Thank you, Valerie. Take care.
Take care.
See you all.
Mike?
Hi, I was in the group with Linda and Sally, Renato, Sayantan, and myself. Our subjects range from climate change to suicide to my life is beautiful. So we were all over the place, and I wish we could have gone on further. That was, I mean, I know it was an hour and a half, but I think we could have gone on further because there's something that each of us brought to the circle, but I would have liked to have pursued it. And so I'm sure that opportunity will arise in some later empathy circle, but it's hard, once you get, you're with a group, you just don't want to let go. At least that's the way I feel. So I'm still in that stage where I'm not quite let go of my group. Okay.
Thank you so much, Mike. Are there any other trainees that I've missed except for myself? No? Okay. So for me, I just am feeling quite emotional because I had just an amazing, absolutely wonderful group that I was with, who I learned so much from, and I grew so much just in the past hour and a half, and could bring me to tears. So I'm just going to move on. Okay. So on to the trainers now. We're going to go to Larry, please. And then
you might want to skip for time, go directly to the closing, just because we're a bit short. Just keep us.
Okay, so then Jana, I will give it to you for closing.
Thank you, Valerie. So first of all, are there any trainer final comments? I think Edwin has
I have a couple, yeah. So I just wanted to put a heads up here. I'm going to share this on the screen real quick. And that's, if you can go to these, this is on LinkedIn, our event page for the intro to the empathy circles and movement and the training. and you can see the schedule up there of upcoming circles. So you can go there on those days and help facilitate. It's a good way to kind of practice facilitation. If we have enough participants, then you can be one of the facilitators and you can practice there. And what we really would appreciate if you can go to the invite button and just start clicking on people, invite all your friends. So you can go through, select like the United States, show results, and you kind of scroll all the way down to the bottom and then click on this little button here, and that'll bring all the people here, and you can invite like 1,000. Well, I've already invited 1,000 this week, so I can't invite any more. But you can invite 1,000 friends on LinkedIn or contacts to this event. And it's one of the best ways to kind of get the word out about the upcoming trainings and get people, get the word out about empathy circles. And I'll put the link to that LinkedIn event there. It's really a great way to get, invite others to attend. And I'll remind everyone about the donations. We'll be sending out a notice about that. So we really do appreciate donations for the training. It's hard to do it without those. So just wanted to give a heads up about that. So I think that was it for me. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Edwin. So let's review what we did in this session. To summarize, everyone who wanted to practice facilitating a short empathy circle with an opportunity to practice dealing with challenges for those who felt ready. And we provided extra time by skipping the how-to introduction for those who wanted to skip it, and an opportunity to practice for those who did. And we debriefed the experience at the end of each empathy circle for each facilitator. And what is coming up next week in session 5? Next week is an integration of our learnings, hearing your feedback about the training and a discussion about your next steps. And we'll do this as an empathy circle with an opportunity to facilitate if you like. In addition, we will revisit the values of a culture of empathy now that you have experienced the training. And then I'd like to remind about the homework. There's assignments that we'll send out an email with a reminder to fill out the session feedback survey. Here, Edwin posted it already. The link is in the chat. Please hold empathy buddy calls. Reach out to each other. Don't wait. As soon as you get your empathy buddy assignments, try to facilitate an empathy circle with family or friends or whoever. And think about how you see the empathy circle practice beginning to build a culture of empathy in your world. And then also finally, please post one feeling in the chat that you have now as a result of being here today. Let's see. I'll put that request here. And when we've done that, here I'll read some of these. Oops, it's disappearing quickly. Happy, confident, grace, energized and community, richness, awed, content, verklempt, thankful, connected, and I've missed some up here and perhaps bounces around here. Gratitude for all of you, awed. Thank you so much. Confident. Okay. Blessed. Serendipitous. Refreshed. So finally, when you're ready, jazz hands for our photo at the end. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for session 4, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week. See you in the empathy circles.
See you next week.
Thank you.
I just have an observation or question. So
Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Go ahead, Matthew.
I just observed my group were only all being if next time ensure that we have at least each group has 1 or 2 female or male mix generally. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that.
So bye.
Bye. Bye, Matthew.
Matthew.
Yeah, bye. Valerie. Bye, Valerie.
Bye, Matthew. See you next time.
Yeah, bye.
Bye, Zoe. Bye, Zoe.
Bye, Larry. It was a nice. Yeah. My daughter's birthday is on Monday. She'll be 4 on Monday.
Congratulations, Matthew.
Congratulations.
Happy birthday to her.
Thank you.
Happy
Yeah, thank
birthday
you.
to Zoe.
Yeah, thank you.
Zoe.
Okay, trainers and trainees, we're going to take a 3-minute break before we come back and debrief the whole session. Okay.
Okay.
3 minutes. So when that hand that's moving around, it goes around 3 times, that's 3 minutes.